My favorite comment was Harrison posting on our Discord yesterday. I literally just finished watching The Devil All the Time. That was the most depressing movie I've ever seen.
Hey, it's your guy Ren. Welcome to Cinema Slime, the podcast for film lovers who can't stop talking about the movies that move us, confuse us, or just make us want to yell at the screen. I'm joined, as always, by my brilliant co-hosts Harrison and Scott. Let's go.
So I'm just coming out of the computer speakers right now.
Yeah, but you're gonna go into headphones soon.
Well, that's good, honestly, because I can't hear myself through your mic.
I don't know that I can podcast without putting on headphones.
Yeah.
No, that's cool. No, do it. Because, well, you're not legit, unless you have the headphones on. I mean, I feel insecure because I usually just put one headphone in and I don't have the other one on, and I feel like people are going to judge me, but
You're just like a sweet rapper.
No, it's just from years of like, hey, I'm gonna stand at my desk and play a video game, but I need to listen to hear if my kids are screaming and yelling, and then I could just drop my headphones real fast.
That's like a dad hack.
Well, honestly, I remember I like playing video games. I don't play them a ton, but I do enjoy them. And one rule I kind of set for myself was I never wanted to have my wife come up to me and say, hey, babe, I need your help with the kids, and have me say, sorry, I'm playing a video game. I can't help you. That was like my number one rule when I had kids. I was like, I never want to say that ever. And so I kind of changed my whole way of doing it. I'm like, okay, I can't play these games during the daytime. I can only play these games. I can't play these games while the kids are asleep but Nicole's awake. And then I'll play League of Legends like when everyone's in bed and I get like 20 minutes.
I just figure I just better be playing a game that Paige likes.
There you go.
So if she's like comes in, she's like, hey, can you help with the kids? I'm like, babe,
I'm playing Halo 2. Like, I think you get it.
I already did a Braid joke last episode, so I can't, but yeah. I'm sure you could do that with Braid. Be like, Paige, I'm doing research right now.
Actually, so that was a really weird shift when I went from, I worked as a project manager on non-game projects for years. And then, I was like all serious with my career. And then I got hired as a game designer. And it was the weirdest feeling to just be like playing video games for work. Like during, not after hours as extra research, but like during work, I would like fire up a game and I'd just be like checking something out, and the Paige would come in, and the kids are like screaming and crying in the other room because I'm working remote. I'd be like, I promise I'm working, and she's like, Scott, I know. Like, I promise. Sitting there like watching someone play League on YouTube, and I'm like on Twitch, I'm like, I promise I'm working.
I swear. You need a little like green and red light. The green is like I'm working. Red is like, okay, I'm not actually working. So you can tell me to get off.
Yeah, winter's coming, and I feel like when the weather gets really crappy here in Oregon, I'll usually invest in like a video game to play because the weather sucks.
Oh man,
but
Metroid Prime.
Yes, exactly, or Dread.
Yeah,
but seasonal depression usually kicks in for me around like November, like 10th.
Oh man, early.
Yeah, pretty early.
Oof, man.
Yeah, it usually takes me till like beginning of February, late January.
Oh really?
Yeah.
No, I'm much earlier. And yeah, when you're not feeling great and like your wife needs you to like do something and you're playing a video game, like I wish I had the excuse for I'm doing research. That'd be really nice.
I saw the new Fantastic Four movie though. I did see that last night.
How was it?
Honestly, so Marvel has been in a pretty sad state of affairs the past little while. Nothing really strong and memorable coming out. I mean, there's been some good stuff, like Thunderbolts was pretty dang solid, and it's about they're at like probably every other one is like decent, and then the other half is like, what was that? But Fantastic Four was really great. It was a really great movie. I really enjoyed every bit of it. It was a really cool new take on it. It was interesting for them to be kind of in a different universe and kind of be back in like the 60s era and all that stuff. I thought that was fun.
I like the look of that movie. The marketing that they had, it just looks really cool.
No, yeah, the marketing was really cool, and it just kind of had this nice fresh feel to it. It's really nice because that movie is the movie that I can now tell people, like if someone came up to me and was like, hey, I want to start the MCU, but I don't want to watch everything, I'd be like, just start at Fantastic Four and just go forward from there. Like you can start right there and you're good to go, because it really does feel like a first step type of thing where it's like, hey, you can start here and you can go back and watch the rest if you want. But if you start here and go forward, you should be fine. And that was a nice feeling.
I started a documentary last night, and I'll admit I didn't finish it, but I walked away from it just with like my brain melting. It's called Buy Now: The Shopping Conspiracy, also on Netflix. It's basically a gigantic John Carpenter's They Live ripoff mixed in with like a modern day documentary. So I liked it. I liked the message of it. It was insane. And you guys should watch like the first hour of it. It'll blow your freaking mind. But I didn't finish it because it's 2 hours long and it's way too long. But I gotta say, like the first hour was crazy. But like there's just like it literally has billboards that just say buy, consume. Like it's a straight ripoff. But the documentary and the message behind it was really powerful. Everyone should check that out.
So I think our listeners have concluded, Ren, that you don't like long movies. I think we mentioned that a couple times. So what's your like ideal movie length, would you say?
90 minutes is literally perfect.
I don't know very many movies that are an hour and a half long.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know. And here's the thing. This documentary was just really long-winded and I got the message so hard that I was just like, I just don't feel compelled to finish it. But I liked it. Just a lot of the reviews were kind of creepy because they were really negative about it and like complaining about like the style that it was directed and like they didn't like this and this little voice and this little thing. And I was like, you guys are missing the message. Like, I just want to go John Nada on everyone and punch everyone in the face until they put the sunglasses on. But I can't do that.
Get that machine gun and shoot with one arm, just waving it around.
Gatling gun.
So I was just watching before I came over here to record the podcast. I was watching Pirates of the Caribbean 2,
You've been on a roll.
Dead Man's Chest.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, like, you know, we've touched on like practical effects and CG and stuff like that a couple of times in our podcast. That movie is like peak incredible CG.
Really?
Like Davy Jones' face and
Oh,
stuff like
yes.
that is, I mean,
Yep.
I think what it is like it's not a limitation of the technology. I think it's a limitation of like crunch time and stuff like that. I think like given enough time and effort and passion and like decent working conditions, I feel like CG can be incredible, but budgets and risk what they are, I don't think there's a lot of time given to make the CG get beyond just good enough for making the money back, you know?
Mhm.
It's like, are we aiming for blockbuster, make our money, or are we aiming for like long-term masterpiece? And I feel like, you know, that movie is not as strong as the first Pirates movie, plot-wise and stuff. But holy crap, the visuals
Yeah.
are just peak.
Yeah, no,
incredible.
that's the movie that I see referenced multiple times. You know, I always see people on Facebook like do a screen cap of that movie, and they're like, "Where did the CGI go? Like, what happened?" And they'll put up a modern movie, and you're like, you know what? Like, I can't even like deny that fact that it was peak then, and it's definitely gone down nowadays. Probably like you said, Scott, because of crunch time and just because of the pressure of it. I don't know if it's a skill issue type of a thing, but yeah, that is the movie that I see get referenced about that pretty frequently.
Which Pirates of the Caribbean is the one where Orlando Bloom proposes to Keira Knightley, like while they're like fighting?
I think that's the next one, the third
The
one.
third one? Yeah, I walked out of the theater. I was so
Dude, that
destroyed at how lame it was. I couldn't even fathom watching the rest of it.
The first one, the first movie is just
Totally.
incredible.
Totally.
And I remember when it came out, like I watched it and then I went and told my friend about it. And I was like, hey, for your birthday, it was like his birthday was tomorrow or the next day. You know, I was like, for your birthday, I'm going to take you to go see it. And he's like, I just got back from the theater watching it. And we're like, okay, let's go again. So the two of us watched 3 different showings, but both saw it twice in one day. It was so good.
2003.
Yeah.
Okay, let me ask you this. I was thinking about, I don't know if you guys have seen The Hangover, but they have Hangover 1, 2, and 3. And I heard Jerry Seinfeld talking about, just like asking, I think it was Zach Galifianakis. He's like, so don't you think those movies would have been better if there was just the one and you stopped there? Do you guys think Pirates of the Caribbean would have been better if they just stopped on the first one? Because I know you like the second one, but the third one's garbage. I won't let anyone talk me out of that. The third one sucks.
see the actually I was thinking about this after our last podcast when we were talking about, it was an Alien. We were talking about Alien and how it related to Prometheus. So me personally, like Pirates like 3 and up don't really ruin Pirates 1 and 2 to me. Like they don't really like mess it up in my mind. I'm just kind of like, okay, like I just didn't enjoy those movies, so I don't know. I just kind of hand wave it away, and I enjoy Pirates 1 and 2 for what they are. So, what do I think the quality of it went down as each sequel came out? Yeah, but I wouldn't say like oh okay, they went to 6, now 1 and 2 are just totally done. I never want to watch them again. It's like no, I'll still watch 1 and 2 frequently.
Okay. Valid.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not like as invested in the world of Pirates of the Caribbean like I am, you know,
The
like
deep lore of pirates.
Star Wars or like like you know, they're fun romps. I, contrary to pretty much everyone else, thought 3 was about as good as 2, which is fine plot wise and stuff. Like the characters are completely different than they were from the first movie. Like 1 is just so good. Jack Sparrow's a funny character. That's why they kept making them. You know, like that's it.
Yeah.
But
That was a special time.
I feel like every single movie, all in every single one, even like the last one with what's her name in it, you know, all that kind of stuff. Like, and Orlando Bloom's son, you know, all those, like every single one of them had at least one extremely visually stunning thing that the pirates did, and I was like, what? Like, what happened? You know, like, like, I don't even know. One of the later movies, one of them, like, the pirates are like they were like blown up and then cursed in the middle of their explosion, and so they're like half floating ghost
Oh
things.
yes, you're right.
And their ship like comes out of the water and like opens up from the bottom like a giant rib cage and like eats other ships. I was like, that is the most incredible thing I've ever seen.
That sounds actually really cool.
But the movie was terrible.
See, I'm trying to remember. I think that that Pirates movie, I was like, that was better than the third one. Like, I think that's the fourth one. So I feel like it was like amazing, mid, slower than mid, and then it went back up to mid. So it's like it's a roller coaster, but it's there.
So wrapping up the Pirates thing, all of you just got to go read a book. The book is on Stranger Tides. It's the pirate book. It was released in the 80s. I think the mid to late 80s. And it's basically what all of the Monkey Island games and the Pirates of the Caribbean movies are like thematically based around. So it's the quirky, over the top, you know, kind of pirates and the voodoo curses and all that kind of stuff just being really, really, really heavy. And they don't try to go into the realism at all. It's just this romanticized alternate reality of what pirates were. And they're all gritty and very visually stunning. And the book does a really good job. Like, it's worth it. It's worth watching that and going, oh, I see what they did. I see what they did there.
Do you guys think that prequels ruin movie franchises more than sequels?
Yeah. Subtlety is that prequels being made, like, can you think of any prequels that weren't made just as cash grabs?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to think of. Like, I can't think of a prequel that, like, made it all
really
better.
added to it.
I can only think of Alien, of course, and, like, Star Wars. What else is there? I can't even...
I mean, anything with a connected universe, so anything Marvel or anything like that, like, there's a bunch of stuff. I don't know. I feel like if it was done well, like, I don't have a problem with a prequel. Like, telling stories and stuff like that, that's cool and all. I just think that you have to care about the original one to care about the prequel, and you can't care too much because the prequel is going to make the sequel. It's not going to live up to the sequel, so you're going to watch a less good movie for the added benefit of more story. So what do you care about? Like, the art piece being good and, like, just trusting that it stands on its own legs? Or do you just really, really, really want to know how the person became who they were? I don't know.
So I have two examples. So The Godfather 2 is the greatest prequel of all time. But that I've seen anyways. If there's another one, let me know. But then also... I'm looking at another. This is like the second best prequel I've seen is Monsters University.
And I didn't really like Monsters University.
Yeah, the X-Men First Class. It
was all right.
Yeah, that one's a rough one.
The rest of these.
Yeah, no, I mean,
guess no.
It's just
The Hobbit. No.
Yeah. I mean, The Hobbit was. I think The Hobbit was written before The Lord of the Rings.
It was, yeah.
But obviously the movie was made before, but the weird decision to split that tiny book into three-hour long movies is beyond me.
Yeah.
I don't know. And that was
It's
post peak CGI, so then it was just like nobody really wanted to make it, but the studios just kept hounding them, so they all just kind of made it. I don't know.
Yeah, but I'll say this, like, yeah, I would say prequels often do mess up franchises sometimes because sometimes it can taint like the original thing. You watch the prequel, then you go back to watch the original movie it's based off of, and you're like, it just kind of messes with some of the things in the movie. The one sequel that really did mess up the first movie was this latest batch of Star Wars movies. Like once you got to episode 9, I think it really messed up episode 7 and 8 to me personally. It was just like, wow, I'm shocked that they were able to do that because most of the time, it kind of depends on the story and if like, let's say we have a trilogy of movies. Are they each individual movies or is it an overarching story? I think if it's an overarching story, lots of times you do have to be careful about your sequels and how it affects the previous movies. But if it's individual movies, then it doesn't matter. Like Shrek 3 doesn't mess up Shrek 2 at all to me. And so it just kind of depends. Like you can kind of like with Pirates, like I just said, you can just kind of ignore, 3 and upwards, and you're just like, I still got 2 great movies.
Well, now, The Devil All the Time is a slow burn tale of God, guns, and generational trauma, set deep in the backwoods of Ohio and West Virginia. You got a young fella named Arvin trying to make sense of a world full of crooked preachers, murdering lovers, and folks hide behind religion like it's a shield. It's one of them stories where everybody's got a dark past, and karma don't forget nobody. Ain't much salvation to be found, just a whole mess of trouble passed down like a family heirloom. 2020's The Devil All the Time.
Does that put you in the mood?
That was
Do you feel kind of like white trash? You ready to talk about this movie?
Just a little bit.
I'm guessing too. I've been dying to know. Did you watch Pirates of the Caribbean to cleanse your palate from this film?
a little bit.
Okay.
Dude.
Just a shot of something nice.
My favorite comment was Harrison posting on our Discord yesterday. I literally just finished watching The Devil All the Time. That was the most depressing movie I've ever seen. Holy hell.
Okay, can I tell you about my experience with this?
Yeah,
Oh my gosh. Okay, so this movie was on my list, and honestly, 90% of the reason it was on the list because I was like, well, it's got Tom Holland, it's got Sebastian Stan, it's got a lot of actors I really like. It's got Bill Skarsgård on it, and he's amazing. So I was just like, you know what? It's got a great cast. I've heard some good things about it, and that's basically all I knew. I feel like I watched the trailer forever ago, and I was like, whoa, that seems dark. And little did I know how dark it actually is. But I'll say this: as soon as I finished watching it, I messaged you guys that. I was just like, that was the most depressing thing I've ever seen in my life. And I kind of had this phase of like, I feel kind of crappy that I put this on the list so you guys had to watch it. But I think this movie is the fastest 180 I've ever done on a movie. And I think it's because of this podcast, because this is definitely not an entertaining movie at all. Like, there's nothing really entertaining about it. I stopped watching it. A couple minutes go by. I posted on a Facebook group just asking people's thoughts about it. And within like 20 minutes, I was like, I kind of love this movie. And I wouldn't be shocked if I watched it again. I think I would have to mentally prepare myself for it. And for me to recommend it to someone, I'd be like, look, it's a good movie. And then I would give them a list of caveats, just saying like, look, it's depressing. There's nothing happy about it. There's not like it's just full of really tragic and terrible things. But I honestly found the characters very interesting. That was kind of what I leaned into. I just went through each character and really thought about their motivations and like why they were important to the film. Because I think this movie is a great definition of movie that I was like, this movie was made on purpose. There was a reason for this, and I want to know why that it was made. That's kind of what I leaned into to kind of, I don't know, recover, I guess, from this film. And then after kind of thinking about it and writing down my thoughts and talking to some other people about it and just getting some general public reviews about it, I was just like, I think this is a good movie, but it's not there's no feel good at all in it for sure.
Yeah. My experience was a little different. I downloaded this and we actually went camping at a Kilchis River in Tillamook on the Oregon coast. It was an awesome trip, but at nighttime we're in the middle of the forest and I turned this on and watched it. It definitely added to the the vibe. Yeah, I was kind of looking over my shoulder if I hear anything rattling in the trees. But yeah, watching it out in the wilderness was different than watching it here in my like in our home, in a safe room. But yeah, this movie was kind of like the poster boy for a challenging film to watch. This is the most brutal movie that we've selected so far for the show.
Ironically, up against the Northman.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, this movie was wild. It's so funny. Like, I don't know. This isn't uncommon for me, but a lot of times the first 30 minutes to an hour, depending on the film, after I'm done watching the movie, is really like hazy. So after I watched it, after I got rid of my anger and I like slept it off and like had nightmares, I got home and rewatched the first hour, and I just got a lot more out of it because I don't know, there's so many little details in the beginning of the film that I just kind of forgot about. So it's really good to revisit them. We can dive into those, but I felt a lot of emotions watching this movie. It's disgusting, it's sad, they're like, I don't know about you guys, but like fire and brimstone preachers, I like want to gouge my eyeballs out whenever I see them or hear them. It's just ever since I've been a little kid, just like it just rubs me the wrong way. It gave me Paul Dano, his character in There Will Be Blood. Got flashes of that. And then have you guys seen The Master? Okay, I walked out of the movie theater. Yeah, I walked out of the movie theater. I was in high school when that came out. But same thing, very strong preacherish vibes in a cult, and yeah, I have a really hard time doing it. Watching in this movie was challenging to say the least. Scott, what did you think of this?
I mean, yeah. So
I felt especially bad for you, Scott. I'm not gonna lie. I was like, oh damn, I can't believe I got him.
That's funny. I felt bad for you, Harrison. I was like, he's gonna sleep horrible tonight.
Yeah, so I had my 7-month-old cut some teeth and he was fevering really, really bad. So it was just like a little over 24 hours of just like constant fever. He needed to be held just constantly. And so I tried to put him down for a nap and he wouldn't let me like lay him down. So I just propped him up in my arm and then put on headphones and started watching this movie, and he slept through the whole movie.
Good.
And
you didn't show him any parts?
My 7-month-old. I'm not doing any of that no more, Pop.
I'm not doing it no more.
The thing that I thought was incredible about this movie is that, so I've watched similar movies, and there's just this flavor of like everything goes wrong and let's show how horrible people can be kind of movies and books. And I've read a couple, I've watched a couple. I never have liked any of them. This movie did not glorify or revel in any of it. It was like unflinchingly honest about how terrible everything was, and simultaneously how unbinary good and evil was in this. It was just everybody was a product of their situation. And I think probably the only thing that I thought was like, geez, was like the concentration of sociopaths all in one area
around small town.
You know?
Yeah.
I'm not going to go so far as to claim that it's not that way, having done some research into why this movie and the book that the original author Ray Pollock like wrote it about, but I finished the movie and I went and was talking to my wife and I was like, that holy holy crap, that movie was so hard to watch. But I I think I think if I could sum it up, I don't even know if I have more to say about it than this. But if I can sum it all up, I think that this movie really captures the value in portraying what true messed up depravity can look like and the long-term effects of that. Because I live in a really, really, really protected life in comparison. And I'm going to get into this because I've got a lot of family stories, like genealogy family stories. My family, spoiler alert, my family comes from this part of the United States. And so
Louisiana.
my
Or
great
where?
Ohio.
Ohio. Okay.
My great grandpa or my great grandma is from here. She was in the Appalachians, and experienced similar things to this, and my grandpa. And so I felt very, I don't know, attached to these people. And I have felt the generational knock-on effects of those things, but I've also seen, similar to what's portrayed in this movie, that when you go through hard times, you can also stop the trauma from going to the next generation. And it probably isn't going to happen wholesale, but between like what was going on with my great grandma and my grandpa and my dad and then me, each generation was like, no, I'm not going to perpetuate what my parents did. And every single generation has gotten better and better to this point where I've lived very comfortable, poor middle class life, and with loving parents that are honest about their religion as opposed to absolute psychotic delusions about stuff, And so watching these just horribly messed up people, horribly messing up people, I don't know, it hit really hard. And I don't know, it felt important, and I'm glad I'm glad it was on the list, Harrison. But I think out of anything, like, did I want to watch it? I'm glad I watched it. Do I really want to talk about it? Not a ton.
No,
That's
honestly,
Oh, go ahead.
I was thinking I was watching it and I was trying to think about us talking about it. And I was like, I feel like this might bring up some really uncomfortable conversations that we might need to put a little preface on. Um, because I will say this one thing that this film made me think about. I was just like, man, I really want to be a good father to my kids, like really badly, and I don't want to screw them up because generational trauma is definitely a theme in this movie, and there's a couple other themes that we'll talk about, but that one really hit like the passing of the Luger onto Arvin, his son, just that physical object that kind of shows that generational trauma going upon him. No, honestly, I think the slimiest, like stickiest scene for me was when Arvin went and beat the shit out of those high school kids that were bullying his adopted sister, I guess is what we'd call her. I was just watching that and I was like, holy crap! Like seeing someone's son kick the crap out of someone because he remembers his father kicking the crap out of his bullies, like that really hit me hard, and I had to like pause the movie, and I had this weird like pressure in my chest for a couple minutes, and I was just like, okay, I need to like sit down for a minute.
Totally. Yeah, you see it kind of echo through time, just seeing what you're, learning from your dad and repeating what you see. That part was brutal. I like how the one thing he does to kind of protect them, he's like, roll your window up. And then he
Yeah,
just
that
continues
was the
to
one.
beat the crap out of him. I just had like at the end of the movie, I thought I was like, wait, what can I learn? Like, what message was the director trying to get across? What did the author like? What is the story of this? And I was like, I think I need to hold Scott's hand and have him just walk me through this. I don't know what else to do, but on my second rewatch, I had completely forgot this detail. But in the beginning of the movie, it shows him in the war, and he finds that half dead soldier propped up on that cross, and he's suffering, and he finds out that he's still alive, and then he kills him. And I had forgotten about that, and I was like, wait, is this a movie about like karma? Like, is his choice to end that soldier's life, is that what brings the trauma into his family line or his family tree. Is that how it echoes? And like, is it like a war trauma film? Like, is it like I couldn't put my finger on what exactly the director's trying to tell with the story. What did you guys think about that?
I mean, I will say, I mean, that definitely was like it definitely did feel like the trauma starting point of everything. Like one thing I was kind of crazy about that is he shoots that soldier and then it's a time jump. And then it goes forward to the current. And I
Uh-huh.
feel like the next scene or a scene really close to that is him talking to his mom after he got back from the war. And one of the first things he says to her is like, "Oh, it wasn't that bad, mama. It wasn't that bad." And you're
Mm.
just like, "Oh no." Like he really internalized that and really pushed that down and it affected his whole life from there on out.
There's a phrase that I heard once that was, I just love the play on words with it. It's like generational trauma is hurting people hurting people. I love that. It's so sad, right? Because it's like, unlike stories, there are very few people that are actually truly evil. And some people are more susceptible to, pride or psychopathy or sociopathy or whatever the case is, like the preachers in this case, like they're just able to thrive on like the praise and the I don't know, the lie of it all, stuff like that. But just the fact that everyone's just really that everyone else, the abused in this movie are just good people trying to live their lives is really intense. I don't know. I kind of feel like as a framing for this movie, it might be important to just kind of talk about the author of the book that this movie was apparently a fairly faithful rendition of. Obviously, not all of the nuance of a book can be captured in a movie, but it can certainly be portrayed visually very well.
Just a fun fact to insert here, the narrator in this movie is actually the author.
Yeah, I loved that. And so when it
I thought that
started,
was a cool.
The author's voice came on, and I was like, oh, this is like a legit like Appalachian accent. You could tell it just the way he pronounced things slightly different than someone who would be faking it, right?
Yep.
And I was like, huh, okay, so what's that story? And I didn't realize until the end when his name showed up in the credits that he was the author, and then the next screen he was also the narrator. I was like, oh, okay, so I really need to find out what this book's about. The author's name is Donald Ray Pollock. He was born in 1954 in Knockemstiff, Ohio, the place where this movie is set.
Beautiful name.
His entire life, he's lived in the same county, so he's never left. And he was just a pothead and a drunk his whole life. He worked in a steel mill and stuff like that, and he was just like all of the things that he portrayed in this movie, he encountered in some way. It was a synthesis of his life. It's hard to make claims to like how real is this when it's like it's probably pretty dang real. This time period and this isolation and what it attracts and what it engenders and what can breed in dark and secrets, with very little accountability. But I think he was 50, and he was like, you know what? I really want to turn my life around. I don't want to die like this. So he went to school. He enrolled in a college, and then he started writing, and he wrote a short story, I think called Knockemstiff, and then followed it up with The Devil All the Time, which won a bunch of awards, and then obviously was adapted into this movie. But like, it's obvious why he's successful in portraying this, because it's so honest and it's so sad and it's so real that it's not, like I said, it's not a glorification of like a horror film. It's not like, yeah, let's show you how scary this can be and build up the tension. It's just like, no, this is what dark people do in the woods. Because of that, I don't know if sympathetic is the right word, but at least you can understand that everyone's complicated, and there's no just like you're an evil person. It's like you're a messed up person, and you being a messed up person is different than you're a pure evil spawn of Satan, and there's no justification for your life. And I thought there's a lot of conflicting thoughts, you know, and even the line that the cop says at the end of the movie, which is, you know, some people are just born to be buried. Like, I think that really captures some of the darkness of this. But at the same time, you know, all of the abused in this movie, including Tom Holland's character, like, you just feel like there is some justice, even if it's not the right kind of justice. It's just very real justice that he was able to like murder 4 people in a row that all deserved to die, and then he just kind of went on with his life and carried that trauma with him. And how's he going to deal with that? And I think maybe the answer is you grow up and you write a book, you know, and you just be honest about how terrible your upbringing was.
Yeah, this is a tough watch, like I've said like 13 times, but there was I was able to glean a lot of the good parts from this film, and I just want to talk about a few things. But I just thought the director did a great job in a few parts when pertaining to the brutality of, I don't know, man, just the scene where it shows Bill Skarsgård getting the cancer diagnosis from the doctor, and Arvin's in the other room kind of listening in. And there's a shot where it shows Arvin kind of looking down, and then it cuts straight to Bill Skarsgård's face, and he, for a split second, has eye contact with the camera, and then he looks down, like Arvin's looking at his dad, and his dad does not want to face the reality of what the doctor just told him. And then a couple of minutes later, that leading to, dude, when he is like forcing his son to pray, just grabs him by the back of the head, and he just believes it with all of his heart, and he believes that he's going to pray this cancer away. And then he sacrifices Arvin's dog, and he's like, it's going to be worth it, it's going to be fine. Cut to them standing over the mom's grave. Dude, that part, wow, dude.
Yeah, that transition from him
God.
like praying to hearing the dirt hit the coffin, I was just like, it's just like a punch in the face. No, yeah, that whole, I think what's really interesting about this movie to me in terms of the characters is it's really looking at their faith in God and how they act on it and what they do and to like show their faith or to feel the power that to feel it inside of them. Like, I don't know, it's interesting to look at Bill Skarsgård character. His name is Willard, I believe. It's very like Abraham sacrificing Isaac, like biblical story. Like it feels very like I'm gonna sacrifice something to God in order to save my wife. Like I did everything you told me to do. I'm gonna kill my son's dog, and as a reward, my wife is gonna live now. Like there's something going on there, and it's just like I don't know. It's yeah. That scene in particular was extremely painful to watch, just because he's involving his son in that. Like it kind of one thought I had you know after the movie was over, I was like, oh my gosh, I wonder if the thought of him sacrificing his own son to save his wife like crossed his mind, and he couldn't do it, so he chose the dog instead. It was just like, oh my gosh, like
Yeah.
that just really hurts.
Yeah, the second most brutal scene for me was when Helen, played by Mia Wasikowska, when she gets stabbed in the neck with the screwdriver. That's, dude, the way that she acted that scene was insane. I got choked up. I don't know how she acted that so well. It was just so believable for me. It was nuts.
No, honestly, I was impressed by the blood for some reason. I don't know what it was. Like, I feel like you're used to seeing blood coming out of a body in a movie, and for some reason, that one just looked very different than normal, and it made it feel more, I guess, realistic or however you want to say it. But it made an impact on me when I saw it. I was just like,
It was like black, dark red blood. It was disgusting.
Yeah, it was pretty rough. No, yeah, and then him like trying to resurrect her right then and there, like that was really uncomfortable. And yeah, I was thinking about why he did that and how he's viewing faith. And the previous scenes of him is him going to churches and performing, I wouldn't say miracles, but he's like showing physical ways of showing like, hey, like I have this belief in God, so therefore I'm protected. So he, pours spiders all over himself and things like that. And the scene right before he kills his wife is the narrator's talking about how he went to do that and he actually got bit by one of the spiders and it like swelled up his face, and I think, and then he like hid in a closet for like, like 2 weeks or something like that. And I love the narrator's comment. It was like, oh, he smelled worse than like a truck stop shitter or something like that. I thought that was pretty funny. Um, but I think, yeah, I was trying to like mental gymnastics of how he concluded this. And I feel like what happened was he poured those spiders on himself, it bit him, it shook his faith. And for some reason he thought, okay, well, I'm going to kill my wife in order to resurrect her so I can thrive on these signs from God to like he wants those signs from God to like bolster himself. Like, at least that's how I viewed it. I don't know if that's right, but it was still very uncomfortable the whole time.
This movie also holds first place for me in the grossest line I've ever heard in any film.
Oh my gosh.
And I won't explain the scene, but I'll just read the line so you have to watch the movie and you'll know exactly what scene I'm talking about. But here's the quote. You got it all in the cup? Yes. That was the most unnecessary, most disgusting thing I've ever seen in a movie that I can even like think of.
Yeah.
And it was unnecessary. I want to write a letter to Antonio Campos and just why you didn't have to put that in. It did nothing. It did nothing to serve the story. It made me gag. But one little detail related to this is the scene directly after is when the police officer shows up to Arvin's house and finds the dead dad. But the way that he's like strolling, he looks so relieved. He's just like, hey, so what's going on? Like he's like he seemed very relieved.
Talking about two very opposite situations occurring. It's just like, oh my God.
Yeah, that was foul. No thanks.
Yeah, that was pretty rough.
Yeah, it's really hard to see people that are supposed to be, or they're in positions of power for whatever reason. They're positions of influence or positions of protection or positions of power, whether it's a cop, a parent, you're the driver picking somebody up as a hitchhiker, whatever the case is, and the perversion of those things and what that does to other people. Like, I think I heard that, there's like, statistically, there's like 1% of the human population is psychotic or sociopathic. And really, like, that's who the laws are made for, because those people are just going to do whatever. And for whatever reason, they just don't feel or think the way that normal people feel and think, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's such a small percentage, but their outsized influence of destruction that they do to humanity is just incredible. Like I said, the number of people around this author that influenced what this movie and his book was going to be is just insane. So like, part of me hopes that there's some exaggeration to this, but I wouldn't be surprised if, he just, this is what his life was like, that truly, when you get, there are just like, a preacher in a small town is obviously going to attract a kind of a dark person, and hopefully, and not always, but hopefully that's not going to be the case. But if you're going to put a sociopath in the middle of the woods somewhere, like they're gonna get their ego stroked and other things stroked, then in the middle of knock 'em stiff might be it.
Yeah, I will say Robert Pattinson did a great job in this movie.
Holy crap.
Dude,
Yep.
I'm telling you, like, that scene between him and Arvin at the very end when Arvin kills him was, I watched it 4 times. Like, I watched it just before I came on, and I watched it twice after I finished the movie. I was just so mind blown by their conversation, and just the tension in that room was, oh my gosh, it was really, really good.
If you want to, I feel like every good actor has got 1 or 2 movies that really showcases it. Like Jim Carrey, he's got The Truman Show, or like The Majestic, or something like that. Or
I hadn't thought about The Majestic in forever. Oh my gosh.
And Tom Holland really shows his chops in this one as well. Like, I think part of it is like, he really captured the silent generation kind of feel, right? And not that he's literally that, but that quiet, like, I've got a lot going on, tough guy, but a good kid, he really manages to capture that. Same with Bill Skarsgård, like, just, holy crap. But if you look at Robert Pattinson's performance in this movie, I think that this is his best performance that I've seen. And, you know, like, I love to make fun of him because of Twilight. And he's so mumbly and, like, non-committal in that movie. All of those movies, all 20 of those movies. And, you know, I've seen him in Tenet, and I haven't watched The Lighthouse. I'm kind of scared of that one.
Have you seen Batman?
Batman was good. I just didn't really like the movie itself, but like he did a good job portraying a very different version on film of Batman, which I really liked. But
I agree.
this character in this movie that he portrayed is so hateable, and he did it so well. And like the fire and brimstone preaching, like the delusions of, you know, like, gosh.
No, yeah, that whole scene of him trying to get out of the situation was so deplorable. Just throwing out any freaking lie you can say, and also I think one of my favorite parts about that scene is when you first see him sitting in the pews. He doesn't even look like a preacher. Like he's got like this like short sleeved ruffled shirt on. He's got like a gold ring, a really nice watch on. He's wearing all these things that just show like that he's living in luxury, I guess you could say, or just living a life that he's getting the riches from what he's from preaching and, you know, being the head of this church. And it's just, it really exudes in that scene that it's just like, this guy is so freaking terrible. And like when he dies, you're just like, thank the heavens that he's gone.
There's another kind of underlying theme that I've been thinking about with this movie, and we've touched on it a little bit, but I think this film has to do with the message of abusing your power. You talked about you know, the photographer swinging couple that they have the power to give people rides and do something really nice for someone and help them out, but then they abuse it by, you know what happens. And then,
understatement.
Yeah, and you know, the police officer and just every character kind of abuses their power, let alone Robert Pattinson's character, the crooked priest, the crooked preacher. But I wanted to ask you guys what you thought about the scene where he tastes the chicken organs. Is he offended by that, or does he like it so much that he lies about it just so he can eat it all himself?
That's my take.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't clear on that. What did you take from that, Harrison?
I felt like he was like saying like, hey, like I can't believe this was brought onto this table. You know, he was like offended by it, but he was trying to pass it off as trying to teach a lesson and everything, you know, just kind of that I felt like it was very passive aggressive. That's what it felt like to me.
Yeah, because the mother is so destroyed that he reacts that way. But I think that he basically just like took a situation and decided to turn it into like a crappy sermon. That's kind of what I gathered from it.
Pretty much. So here's a question I thought of. So like you were talking about, Ren, this movie's about a lot of people abusing the power, the power, the position that they're in. Like you said, you got the cop, you got the priest, all that good stuff. I'm wondering, I feel like this movie doesn't really, I feel like these characters aren't really doing things and justifying it through their faith in God, but I feel like they're interpreting their faith in God in a way to make them feel justified in what they're doing. Like, I feel like, I don't know, I feel like none of them ever said something along the lines of like, oh, I slept with this girl because of God or something like that. But I feel like they're interpreting their faith in a way that leads them to do terrible things. And I don't know if that means this movie is like anti-religion or anything like that. I wouldn't say it is, but it's, I don't know. I think it really just shows like human nature and how you can take something like that and pervert it. So I don't know if that's what you guys got out of it, but
yeah, I wrote that at first. This is kind of portrayed as an anti-religion story, but I don't think it is.
Yeah, like comparing it to previous movies we watched. Like, let's look at Detroit Rock City, which was all about like you stupid church moms and you know, like corrupts is probably too big of a word for the depth of that movie, but you know, like hypocritical probably is better. Hypocritical Catholic priests and, you know, kissing each other's hands like all titillated about rape stuff. You know, the point is to make fun of how stupid religion was in the context of a teenager and a coming of age story, right? This movie, I don't think, and this is a little bit influenced by Ray Pollock, who, wrote the story, is, there's just the reality that I don't think it matters whether or not it's a critique against religion. I think what matters is that the people that were in the power positions they were abused that power and created situations like with Lenore, like convincing someone who's vulnerable, young, lonely, whatever the case is, that God wants them to do a thing when God obviously said no such thing, you know? And so, interesting interpretation of the Ten Commandments is if you look at the Jewish, the Torah, which is the first several books of the Old Testament. So the Torah and the Old Testament are the same scriptures, but one's translated from the original Hebrew and the other is translated through Greek. And they come from very different, religious traditions, though from the same root, right? They come from the same stories of Moses and Abraham, stuff like that. But the taking of God's name in vain in Christian tradition, we talk about it like, don't say, oh my God, or like, God's going to smite you, or whatever the case is. Like, so it's, and swearing is wrapped up in that as well. Like, don't say things in God's name because, God's powerful and like, you're just putting like points on the board against you or something like that. Like, the connotation is somewhat vague and it seems like a fairly harsh punishment for saying, oh my God, right? But the Jews have a very different perspective of what taking God's name in vain is. It's a lot closer to all of the crap that happens in this. It's you do something in God's name.
That makes a lot more sense.
But it is obviously not God telling you to do that.
Yeah. It's like saying that God said it, but it was actually just you that said it.
So every unjustified, unholy war, every abuse done to Lenore, every preacher that was delusional and lied to their congregation to get praise or manipulate the social situation, whatever the case is, anytime God is wrapped up in a thing, it's 100% taking God's name in vain. And the punishments for taking God's name in vain are extremely severe in the Torah and the Ten Commandments. And that's one of the reasons why, like, oh my gosh, don't say oh my God to your kids, like it not only is it like crude, but like you're gonna like go to hell for it. But if you look at it from the Jewish perspective, like this is horrible. This whole movie is horrible and it's taking God's name in vain.
I've never had anyone explain that, and you just blew my mind.
So going back to your original statement, Harrison, like, I don't think this is an anti-religion movie, but when you're raised in a situation where preachers abuse their power and stuff like that, like, you probably don't have a super high opinion of it, but you might also still believe in God and be, not really know what you feel about it. And I kind of feel like that's Roy Pollock's perspective here. He named this movie this book and subsequently the movie The Devil All the Time, but he's quoted in saying, the devil don't ever let up. I feel like the title really is like a more poetic version of that line, the devil don't let up. And you're not going to say the devil don't let up if you don't have some sort of at least foundation in belief that maybe God and the devil are real. He's definitely not an atheist. Probably just, it's practical and grounded, and might feel a little below his pay grade to make that decision.
Did you guys feel like this movie was a mystery movie almost? But it's a mystery movie that you have all the knowledge of? Because I felt like it was unraveling almost like one. Like, I felt like I was watching it and you're gaining all this information. You're figuring out all the relationships between all the people. I don't know. I feel like the end was very like revealing of who all these people are, and I don't know. That's kind of the vibe I got from it without being an actual mystery movie. And I thought it was just a cool feeling.
That's a good call, and I can just say I don't think I've ever seen a movie like this, which makes me respect it. Any movie that can be this original. I mean, there's movies kind of like it, but like this is its own film for sure. I was kind of thinking about other movies. Like, this sort of felt to me, I don't know if you guys have seen Deliverance, but it felt like a mix between Deliverance and No Country for Old Men. With a little bit more, well, No Country for Old Men has that revenge aspect of it. So I don't know. There's really no movie like this, but that was just a
Yeah.
thought that I had.
Well, I think it's a combination of I wouldn't they don't do a ton of time jumps, I would say, but they do a few little flashbacks to kind of remind you of who's who and like what the
Mhm.
character is thinking about at the time. Like when like actually right after the scene after Arvin kicks the crap out of these kids, he has like a small flashback to when his father did the same thing for him.
Yeah, that seems
So
cool.
it's a combination of that, but it's also the narrator in there as well because the narrator reveals a few things before we even know what's going on. Like probably the most spine chilling moment for me in this film was when they're in the cafe at the very beginning, and that new waitress goes up to Carl, and they talk for a second. He takes a picture of her, and the narrator says something along the lines of like, she would end up being his model. He was the shooter, and and their victims were models. And I was just like, wait, what? Like, because you know nothing about who this guy is and what they're going to turn into. Like, you know nothing about that, but the narrator reveals that to you, and then you kind of have that anticipation. It's almost like when you're watching a movie. We talked about this in a previous podcast where you know when someone's going to die. It's like James in Europa Report. You knew something was going to happen to him, and then that anticipation throughout the whole movie, like that just really enhances the experience for me personally, and I think they pulled it off very well in this movie.
So there's this fantastic copywriter that I've followed over the years, off and on, named Andre Chaperon, and he talks a lot about like doing marketing as storytelling. So instead of obey, consume, and stuff like that, you basically just say, hey, this is what I've got, and if you're interested in it, I'm going to let you like walk in to this world that I've created, and if at the end of that you feel like the product I'm selling is worth you having, then you buy it, but I'm not going to push it on you. Like, it's, can I get your eyeballs on it once? And if you go deep enough, you'll buy it. And if you don't, like, you're not interested, I don't want you to buy it, is basically his approach. And the way that he does that is through storytelling. What you talked about right there, Harrison, is the cliffhangers. There's just these like micro cliffhangers constantly that like it opens a loop, and then later that loop is resolved and it closes, but it's like layered loops opening. And so I agree. I'm glad you brought up that scene in the diner. That's one of the things I wanted to talk about, is how they introduced these characters and then didn't revisit them for like 15, 20, 30 minutes, but you already knew like, oh, these people are going to be messed up, or there's something dark about them. And just how everybody is interconnected. Everything's small town.
So that sort of ties in. I don't think this is true, but what I was talking about earlier about how Bill Skarsgård ends the life of the soldier, and then this happenstance event where the photographer and him almost run into each other, and then he gives his seat up. I was like, did he transfer this horrible energy into this town? Is that where like this conjoining of, I don't even know. It doesn't make sense. It's not fully fleshed out, but I was just trying to. I think I was trying to deep dive a little too deep.
No, I'm actually pretty curious if you'll let me go into that a little bit further with you. I guess, what's the difference in your head between karma and generational trauma? I feel like they're two separate concepts with a Venn diagram crossing in the middle. I guess for perspective, karma to me implies a sort of energetic transfer of, you do good, you do bad, you get bad, but potentially more complicated than that. But it's really like what goes around comes around, and they're
Mm-hmm.
a cyclical or circular kind of morality, right? That's not the right word. Of a circular form of ethics or something like that. So if you do good, you'll invite more good things in your life. Whereas we have a much more modern and less spiritual connotation of that, like the generational trauma, where if you do good things, that can pass down your generations. If you do bad things, that can pass down your generations. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, like tease those out a little bit for me, and I'm really interested on your perspective of how those apply to this movie.
Well, I think the one thing that he does is, if the devil is in Bill Skarsgård, the photographer kind of bows down to him and gives him the seat. So maybe that was part of it. Just kind of like,
Interesting.
yeah, like he submitted himself to it. And I don't know. It's probably not what they meant to do in the movie, but that really got my gears turning because really there's no significance of them having any run in at all. They just do. But then they have these two different storylines and it all joins eventually. But yeah, just like I said, when I revisited the beginning of the movie, I was like, oh, I totally forgot about that. Why? And yeah, I'm just trying to piece it all together. You've held my hand and walked me through a lot of this, so I'm really appreciative of it. But yeah, I'm just like grasping for like if I was a director, why would I be so compelled to tell this story? And I feel like there's something deeper. Maybe there's not, but yeah, I think that's all I have to say about that.
I think I gravitated towards looking at the original book and the author because most of the creative work was done by him. But you make a really good point that I hadn't thought of is like, why did the directors and the producers like I saw Jake Gyllenhaal was the senior executive producer on this movie. Like, why? Why would you see that script and be like, dang it, I'm going to drop several $1 million on this movie? You know, like, what? Like, I'm glad they did. But at the same time, like, what's the compelling reason internally?
Something I saw a lot of people talking about is they felt like there was a lot of happenstance in this movie. Like, oh, people just happened to run into each other. And, you know, Arwen just happened to be picked up by the couple and, you know, things like that. It's really funny because in my head, like when I watch movies, I usually don't think about things like that. I'm usually not like, well, what are the chances of that happening? It's like, it's a movie, it's a story. Like they're here to tell you a story. Of course, it's all going to work out, you know, or of course, this is going to happen. Of course, Arvin's going to get picked up by the couple because that's part of the story. So, you know, don't overthink it. But in this movie, I was kind of like, I feel like the movie really takes a pretty big shift after Lenora dies because that sets Arvin off into killing spree. Doesn't sound like the right word for it. It almost feels like an avenging angel sounds kind of wrong too, but I felt like he goes on all these events that happen to him. He ends up killing all of these really terrible people. And just before that occurs, he's sitting there in his father's bedroom and he's looking at that picture of Jesus Christ and the cross, him carrying it. And it felt very like he's like, I'm on a mission without knowing he's on a mission, you know? Like he's going through and he gets picked up by the couple. He ends up killing these two serial killers. He ends up killing the corrupt cop who comes to kill him at the site of his father's like church, you know, out in the woods. Like it didn't feel like happenstance. It felt like divine intervention. Does it? Like I wish I knew words better. But like divine intervention sounds really intense to say right there, but it almost felt like he was put on a mission to stop these people from doing these terrible things, and that's how the story is all wrapped up in the end.
That's a really cool bit of symbolism that I kind of love that. I think I'm going to adopt that into my headcanon. Because this, once again, I just keep going back to the author Pollock and just like, when bad things have happened to you in your life, I mean, you're a guy, like how many times have you like gone through the I'm going to save the day and beat the ever living crap out of the people that deserve it, the justice, right? In this particular case, like the angel of death is, like you said, the avenging angel is probably a little too strong as well, but it has symbols of that. It has that motif. And I think you're onto something with that. That's really powerful.
Have you guys seen the show Dexter?
Yes.
I've watched some of it.
You know the premise. I remember when I first got introduced to that show, and it blew my mind, and it sort of touches on this topic that we're talking about. But like, I think we all want this justice part. We want the bad guy to get served. And what's cool about Dexter, I remember just getting so addicted to that show, at least for like the first 3 or 4 seasons. In fact, that's the last show that I was addicted to, outside of True Detective. But this whole idea of someone murdering someone who's done something absolutely unforgivable, horrible, maybe even murdering someone else. But that justice, this part of our human psyche that kind of thirsts for it, like you don't act on it because you'll go to jail or ruin your own life. But there's something about watching someone else do it that is satisfying.
So going back to kind of the generational trauma thing of this. So the last like 40 minutes of the movie are Arvin's on this, you know, like I said, not a killing spree, but he's avenging all these people and stopping these bad people. Before that, you got Willard, his father, going in to beat up his bullies. And what happens, and while he's doing that, his wife is at home. She passes out, falls on the floor, ends up having cancer. And then when you jump forward to when Arvin goes out and kicks the crap out of those bullies for his sister is actually with the priest during that time. So there's this weird kind of contrast message of like this violence that he's choosing, that these two characters are choosing to do, usually leads to terrible things occurring. And then in the last half, it seems like all this violence that's occurring is not just maybe justified. I don't think that's the right word, but I've said that too many times in this podcast. But it's just an interesting contrast between the two sections of the movie.
Good point.
Justice and justified have the same root word.
Yeah. I had a few more notes as far as just like really cool choices that I liked that the director put in the film. The scene where Lenora, it's kind of after she hooks up with the preacher, Robert Pattinson's character. But there's a point where I think she finds out she's pregnant, and then she stands on that little stool in the barn about to hang herself. And at the very last second, she has this just sudden like realization that what she's doing is wrong, and she kind of has like regrets, and she tries to get off, but it's too late, and the stool tips over and she dies. And that one choice just to have her, it's a completely different story for her character. Be like, oh, she found out she was pregnant and killed herself. Then versus she found out she was pregnant, almost killed herself, but talked herself out of it, but then tripped and then still killed herself on accident.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm explaining that correctly, but like I was just like, oh, that little choice that the director or the writer did, that was really cool, and it just made me feel for that character a lot more.
Yeah, that was the scene that it happened, and I was like, I think I'm gonna turn this movie off. like I thought it was an interesting choice, but like after all, like because there's like 4 or 5 terrible things that happened just before that, and then that was kind of like the last like blop of water that made my cup overfull, and I was just like, oh my gosh, and okay, hold on, and I just had to take a small break, and I was like, I don't even know if I could finish this movie, and I did of course, but that was definitely a tipping point for me.
The actress Eliza Scanlon, she is the exact same character that she is in Little Women. She's like the homely sick girl in both of these movies. What that is. Hopefully her next film, she's a different character, but I thought that was kind of funny.
So I definitely watched that scene and I was like, oh my gosh, she kicked the bucket. And I was like, oh, that's where that phrase comes from. And I was like, oh my gosh.
That's terrible.
Yeah. Yeah. Another thing I just wanted to take note is Pokey Lafarge, who plays Theodore, the friend of Roy. After he stabs his wife in the neck and they're in the car, he's like the only good character in the movie because he's the only one who's like, no, dude, you stabbed your wife in the neck with a screwdriver and you tried to bring her back from the dead. You sound crazy, dude. And he's the only like voice of reason, I think, in the whole movie. And I wrote down, I was like, everyone needs a friend like that. And because he said that, Roy like ditches his friend in the car. He wakes up, he's like, huh, where'd he go? Next thing you know, he's getting picked up by the hitchhiking serial killers. I don't know why I wanted to bring that up. I just like that part.
No, I wrote down the exact same thing. I was like, thank you. Like, just, I need someone to tell them like, no, you're freaking crazy. Like, let's see, the 2 notes I had, one was, so the first time I tried to watch this film, I was just up too late. I just couldn't sleep for whatever reason. I was like, well, I'll start watching this. And as soon as he grabbed that jar of spiders, I was like, nope. And I turned it off because I was like, I'm gonna have nightmares because I don't know what he's gonna do with those spiders, but a jar of spiders never leads to anything comfortable.
Okay, so I just love the fact this is a very good like trust your audience editing thing because he's talking about spiders. I'm scared of spiders, and then he goes over and like semi-discreetly grabs a jar and you don't know what's in it, but you're like, there's spiders, there's spiders, there's spiders,
Yeah,
there's
something
spiders,
in there, something bad's gonna happen.
Because you couldn't see the spiders, that's all you could think of. I was like, that's such good editing.
Yep.
And my last note, I won't take credit for this. I saw someone mention it, but someone was like, I like the fact that the guy who picked up Arvin at the very end kind of looked like Jesus. And I don't know if that meant anything strong, but
Yeah.
But I don't know if it was like an approval thing or something. Like, hey, I'm here for you now, or something. But it maybe that one made me chuckle.
This was definitely an incredible book to movie. It felt like a book. The whole pacing felt like a book. The story was pieced together like a book. Like you said, a lot of happenstance. This was not a cinematic marvel. This was a book made. This is a story worth telling, made into a movie very well. And the facial descriptions, just seeing what Knock'em in Mead, Ohio, and stuff actually looks like, I think was worth seeing this and just going, these are real people, real lives, messed up people doing messed up things, abusing their power and stuff like that. Like, I think it was a good book to movie adaptation.
Yeah.
What would you rate this movie, Scott?
It's probably a 5, honestly. I really will never watch this movie again. I really don't even know that I would recommend it to anybody. At the same time, like I said, I've got a lot of like emotional attachment to this movie. My great grandma Daisy, she was born in Georgia but very young, moved up to Cleveland, Ohio, and she just had a whole lot of cousins and stuff out in that area. And this was like 19. She was a flapper, you know. So she was probably born in like 1900, something like that, early Ohio,
Wow.
right? So Appalachians were a thing, you know, all the moonshine and the Louisiana folks and all that jazz. So that's her. She was pampered because she was the only girl in the like cousins and groups and stuff. But it was like abuse just happened. Like that's just what happened in the woods, you know. And I don't know if she was ever abused when she was a little girl, but she grew up and kind of had this like view of what the world was going to be. And she married my great grandpa, the shepherd side, and he was a philanderer and slept around, cheated on her, and there was a movement that women could actually do divorces and stuff, and she divorced him, and because of that, she was ostracized from the family, and so she had a nervous breakdown. Her only son, my grandpa, her only kid, my grandpa, was passed around from cousins and stuff like that. She remarried, and I think that he tried to rape her once. She pulled a knife on him, and they ended up, I believe, I just talked to my dad about this on the way to the airport today. I was asking him about our history in the area, but you know, like these women that are just like strong, sticking up, you know, just abused by the people that shouldn't be abusing them. You know, the people in positions of power, and the guy that she married also slept around, but I think they stayed married the rest of their lives. She ended up living with my grandpa and my dad when my dad was a little kid in Alabama. But I bring this all up because she had this really traumatic life, and her son, my grandpa, he was the first person in their family on all sides to go to school. And he was like, I'm not gonna play that game in the mountains like you guys are. Like I'm not gonna carry this on. And so he went and he became, well, he was working on getting his engineering degree when World War II happened, and so he went and served as a flight engineer in World War II, and he came back and he continued that, but he took on the trauma of his parents and stuff, and he was like just an absolute alcoholic, and he beat my dad and his brothers and stuff to death, and his wife, and it was just like, but he didn't cheat, you know, so like a little bit less abuse in that generation. And my dad was like, saw all the hypocrisy of like the churches and stuff that he was going to, but he was struck by the Mormon church, and he joined the church on purpose because he was like, this is the only one that seems honest, you know. What he did is he stopped the smoking and drinking to join the church. And so then my mom was from an inactive LDS family, and she and him were like absolutely not meant for each other. They just slept together and shotgun wedding and stuff like that. But they got married when they were like 18 or 17 and 18 or something like that, just really young. And they stubbornly stuck together because they didn't want to have the divorce and the trauma and the alcoholism in their kids' lives. So my parents stopped even more abuse, And I remember, the rough redneck upbringing that I had is nothing in comparison to what was in this movie, but like, it's not sanitized by any reason, right? And I'm trying to do the exact same thing with my kids. I go, all of the things that I hated from my parents, I'm going to do the same thing and not do those to my kids. I'm going to try and raise them based on an actual ideal of something moving forward rather than like just stopping the bad stuff from the past, because 3 generations before me slowly chipped away at this horrible abuse, and it's put me in a very privileged position where I can think about that. I can get past base survival because of the insane lifetime hard work that they did. I think that I finished watching this and it was like watching Tom Holland go off on all those people and just give some justice. And the fact that he was driving up to Cleveland or wherever, he's like, I've never been up that way before. It's like, maybe I'll find a little girl and start a family of my own, and it's like, you can see that he's trying to do the same thing, but it isn't a message of perpetuating the trauma. It's doing better little bit by little bit. And I think the last thing I want to say is going back to Bill Skarsgård's opening scene of this whole movie. I talked about the structure of Save the Cat and how, like, you take a complex or not necessarily noble character, what are you going to do to make them likable from the very beginning? And this is a very non-traditional Save the Cat for him to shoot that guy in the head.
Yeah.
Because that is the beginning of his trauma, or at least the portrayal in this movie. But at the same time, it's like he is a good person that was trying to stop that unjust suffering that he was suffering at the hands of this war,
Yep.
and it immediately set him off as a complex character. And so when he did the things he was doing, he's smacking his kid on the back of the head, pray damn it, it's like, why he was doing that, and you feel complex, real feelings towards him, like you do thinking about your extended family or history or genealogy in your own family, and you're ashamed or sad or whatever the case is of that generational abuse that's occurred even within your own family.
That's really cool. Yeah, just a quick story, just something that I learned from my dad about my grandpa, but kind of plays off of what you're talking about. But my grandpa, Al Jensen, it doesn't seem like that big of a deal, but it definitely is. But he told my dad that he never heard him say that I love you like once. So my grandpa said that to my dad like all the time. And dude, I tell my kids that like no matter what, like first thing in the morning, no matter what, right before bed, and like 4 times in between the day. And just to like imagine living your life where like saying I love you is like a sign of weakness, like that curse perpetuating in your bloodline is atrocious. So I'm really grateful for that. So to my last parting thoughts on this movie was I really like the acting in this movie. Still trying to grapple with the message, but definitely made a lot of progress on that journey today. I'm glad we talked about it. This is like the quintessential movie that like I need to talk to someone about after I watched it. But it's funny, this movie has Spider-Man, Pennywise the Clown, Batman, Alice in Wonderland, Bucky Barnes / Winter Soldier, Dudley Dursley in it, and it sucked.
And Little Women.
Oh yeah, the homely sick girl from Little Women. And it sucked in the fact of just like the way it made me feel. It's a really well done movie, but it's disgusting, dreary, it's grotesque. There's so many things about it. Like it has like that, like when you think about watching like Requiem for a Dream, you're just like, it's a great movie, but like I don't want to feel like garbage. Like I don't ever want to watch this movie again. And I would only recommend it if someone was like, recommend a movie that just destroys me and makes me feel lots of emotions. I'd be like, The Devil All the Time. But you have to like take like a psychology test before you watch it, or else I'm afraid to recommend it to you. I'm gonna give it a 3.5 out of 5, just because of everything I just said. It's tough. It's great. It's so many things at once. But yeah, 3.5 out of 5 for me. Harrison, what do you think?
This is a really difficult film to rank just because of the feeling I felt
and in between and throughout the whole film. It really did not make me feel very good. And I'm just not used to watching movies like that. One of my kind of pillars of movies I really love are movies I can watch over and over again. And this really is a movie where it's like I won't be shocked if I watch it again, but I really don't want to. Like, I have to mentally prepare myself to it. So I think when it comes down to it, I think this movie is actually a 5 out of 5 in terms of the quality of the movie, the acting, the storyline, everything. But on my personal kind of rankings that I keep for myself, just so I can know like what kind of movie, like if I sit down to watch a movie, I look through my rankings. If I want to rewatch something, it's probably going to be put down as like a 4 out of 5, I would say, maybe a 3.5 out of 5. I would have to think about that one a little more. But overall, I'm glad we watched this movie. I think it really brought up some great discussions, got me thinking, and I love movies that do that.
Well, let's end this. That was heavy, and thanks for sharing everything you shared, Scott. That was really awesome, and I'm really looking forward to a less intense movie next week. Tremors, which I'm sure will bring much more laughs. Not as deep, probably, but I'm really excited to revisit it. And just no CGI, practical effects. We're back like in that sweet zone of the film that I love the most. 1990s Tremors next week. Tune in. Thank you.
Peace.
Peace. That's a wrap, and thanks for hanging out with us. Cinema Slime is a production hosted by Harrison Jensen, Ren Jensen, and Scott Shepard. This episode was mixed, edited, and produced by Harrison with design and art by Ren. There's more slime coming your way, so don't forget to subscribe, share, and drop a comment. You can find us on all your favorite social media platforms with links in the episode notes, and on Patreon, we will have exclusive content and merch. Until next time, go watch a movie.